Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Scotty B Show. Today, we're going to remember Ernie Harwell, Tigers broadcaster from 1960 to 1991 and from 1993 to 2002. So, Ernie Harwell was an American broadcaster known for his long career calling play by play of Major League Baseball games for 55 seasons, 42 of them with the Detroit Tigers. Harwell called the action on radio and or television. In January 2009, the American Sportscaster Association ranked Harwell 16th on the list of top 50 sportscasters of all time. Harwell attended Emory University, where he was a member of the Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity and helped edit the Emory Wheel. After graduating, Harwell worked as a copy editor and sports writer for the Atlanta Constitution. In 1943, he began announcing games for the Crackers on WSB radio, after which he served 4 years in the United States Marine Corps. Harwell would leave the service in January 1946 as a sergeant. During his enlistment, he was stationed in Camp Lejeune as a writer for the Globe and later in Washington, D.C. as a writer for Leatherneck. The Crackers were a Class AA team, 2 rungs below the majors. Nonetheless, Harwell had achieved considerable notoriety, due to the Crackers airing their games on WSB, a 50,000-watt station that reached much of the eastern half of the United States at night. Brooklyn Dodgers general manager and part owner Branch Rickey was impressed enough with Harwell that he believed he would be an appropriate substitute for longtime Dodger announcer Red Barber, who is recuperating from a bleeding ulcer. He traded catcher Cliff Draper to the Crackers in exchange for breaking Harwell's broadcasting contract, the only known instance in baseball history where a player was traded for a broadcaster. Harwell broadcast for the Dodgers through 1949, the New York Giants from 1950 to 1953, and the Baltimore Orioles from 1954 to 1959. Harwell was the lead broadcaster on Orioles broadcasts on WCBM AM and WMAR TV in 1955, working alongside Chuck Thompson. The next year, Thompson moved on to Washington, D.C. to broadcast the Senator games until returning to the Orioles in 1962. Early in Harwell's career, he also broadcast the Masters Golf Tournament as well as pro and college football. Harwell joined the Detroit Tigers broadcast crew in 1960, replacing Van Patrick after the latter was dismissed owing to a sponsorship change. George Kell, who had begun calling Tigers games with Patrick the year before and had previously played for the Orioles 56 to 57, while Harwell was announcing their games, was instrumental in bringing Harwell to Detroit. George called and said, "I recommend you, and the Tigers asked me to get in touch with you," Harwell said. "I came, and that was it." Harwell shared TV and radio duties with Kell through 1963, then with Bob Sheffling in 1964. He began working radio exclusively in 1965, teaming with Gene Osborne for 2 seasons, and then with Ray Lane from 67 to 72. Paul Carey replaced Lane in 1973, joining Harwell to form the Tigers' best-known and longest-lasting radio team, which lasted until the end of 1991 season. Harwell gained a large following outside of Detroit because the Tigers aired their games on WJR, a 50,000-watt station that reached most of the eastern half of North America at night. On December 19, 1990, the Tigers and WJR announced that the station wanted to go in a new direction and that the 91 season would be Harwell's last, as his contract was non-renewed. Carey then announced that he had already planned to retire after the 91 season, and that the decision was unrelated to Harwell's contract situation. Fans across Michigan and throughout the baseball world were outraged, but the ball club and the radio station, who eventually wound up blaming each other for the decision, stood firm. Harwell's situation is not going to change no matter how much clamor is made over it, said team president Bo Schembechler. The situation caused outrage so much that some made threats of violence against Schembechler. Some, such as Mitch Albom, blamed the situation causing as much negativity feeling as it did on WJR executive Jim Long, who was the one who pushed the quick, no severance pay removal of Harwell. The movement in favor of keeping Harwell was so strong that even billboards in favor of his remaining were put up. Rick Riz was hired away from Seattle Mariners to replace Harwell in 1992, teaming with Bob Rathman. Harwell worked a part-time schedule for the California Angels in 92. The following year, the Tigers were purchased by Mike Ilitch, who made it one of his first priorities to bring Harwell back. In 1993, Harwell teamed with Riz and Rathbun on the WJR broadcast, calling play-by-play of the middle innings in each game. From 1994 to 1998, Harwell called television broadcasts for the Tigers on Past Sports, WKBD TV, and later Fox Sports Detroit, now Bailey Sports Detroit, for select broadcasts. In 1999, he resumed full-time radio duties with the team, swapping roles with Frank Beckman, who had replaced Riz in the radio booth following the 94 season, teaming with analyst Jim Price and continuing that role even as the team's radio rights changed from WJR to WXYT in 2001. During spring training in 2002, Harwell announced that he would retire at the end of the season. His final broadcast came on September 29, 2002. Dan Dickerson, who had joined Harwell and Price in 2000, took over as the Tigers' lead radio voice. Harwell's broadcast for the Giants of the third and final game of the 1951 National League tiebreaker series against the Dodgers, which ended with the pennant-clinching shot heard around the world, home run by Giants' Bobby Thompson, was carried nationally on NBC television. Harwell helped broadcast 2 All-Star games in 58 and 61 and 2 World Series in 63 and 68 for NBC Radio, numerous ALCS and ALDS for CBS Radio and ESPN Radio, and the CBS Radio Game of the Week from 92 to 97. He also called the 1984 World Series locally for the Tigers and WJR for CBS TV coverage of the 91 World Series. Harwell narrated an opening prologue prior to Game 1 and a closing epilogue, an excerpt from A. Bartlett Giamonti's The Grain Fields of the Mind after Game 7. Following his retirement, Harwell came back briefly in 2003 to call a Wednesday night baseball telecast on ESPN as part of that network's Living Legends series of guest announcers. In 2005, Harwell guested for an inning on the Fox Network's coverage of the All-Star Game, which was held in Detroit for the first time since 1971, as well as an inning on the ESPN radio broadcast. For Game 3 of the 2006 American League Division Series between the Tigers and the Yankees, he provided guest commentary on ESPN's telecast for 2 innings, called an inning of play-by-play on the Tigers radio flagship WXYT, and guested for an inning on ESPN Radio. Harwell also called an inning of Game 1 of the 2006 World Series for WXYT. Harwell served as a guest color commentator for 2 Tiger games on FSN Detroit on May 24th and 25th, 2007. Harwell worked the telecast alongside play-by-play man Mario Impemba as a substitute for regular analyst Rod Allen, who took the games off to attend his son's high school graduation. Harwell had filled in for Allen once before in 2003 telecast. He also appeared as a guest on the ESPN Sunday Night Baseball telecast in Detroit on July 1st, 2007. Harwell occasionally did vignette on histories of baseball for Fox Sports Detroit magazine program Tigers Weekly. Harwell was was known for his low-key delivery, southern accent, Detroit Tigers, and conversational style. Some of his trademark phrases were, "That one is long gone." He stood there like the house by the side of the road and watched it go by. Called out for excessive window shopping. That was always a good one there. It's two for the price of one on the double plays. A fan from any city would be taking the ball home today. If whoever caught a foul ball, and he admitted later that he didn't know any of them, he would just call out any city name in Michigan, and everybody loved that. The Tigers need instant runs when the team was behind the late innings. Harwell would also begin the first spring broadcast of each season with the reading from Song of Solomon. For lo, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone. The flowers appear on the earth, the time of the singing of birds is come, and the voice of the turtle is heard in our land. Ernie Harwell, sure missed his voice on the radio and the TV. Again, he broadcasted for the Atlanta Crackers 43-48, Brooklyn Dodgers 48-49, New York Giants from 50-53, the Baltimore Orioles from 54-59, the California Angels from 92, and the Detroit Tigers from 60-91 and 93-2002. He was a Ford C. Frick Award in 1981 and became the only broadcaster to be traded for a player. The Tigers have a statue of him outside Tiger Stadium there. Ernie Harwell, one of the greats. Always be missed. Always be happy that you heard him. Again, everybody have a great day, great night, whatever the case may be. We'll see you next time on the Scotty B Show.